Hey everybody, it's Luke from Galaxy Tech Review, and today we're going to review the Xiaomi Mi 9T mid-range Android smartphone. It's got that pop-up camera. It's got some really cool finished designs on it. I'll show you that in just a few minutes. You can pick this up at Banggood for the normal price is about $350, but I've seen it on sale for about $299 at certain points. And we'll get into the specs and everything in just a minute, so hang tight for my Mi 9T review, and I'll be right back. So let's get this unboxed. We'll take a look at what comes in the box when you first get it. It comes in three different colors. It's got a carbon black, a flame red, and a glacier blue. I have the glacier blue edition here, and it looks really, really cool. I think they did an awesome job on the finishes on these. Now they're made out of, the shell material is glass, so it's glass back, glass front, so you're probably going to want some sort of case, but with the finish that they have, I would suggest going with something that'll let the showings of the phone show through. Now they give you a case here. It's just a little snap-on case. It's cool that they give it to you, so that way when you're shopping for cases, you've already got one to kind of keep it in when you're going through it. But the phone itself is a pretty beast of a phone when you consider the price point. You can see that the glacier blue finish on the back there looks really, really good. The red one looks really, really good. And the carbon black one, I haven't seen in person, so you can make your own determinations. But this glacier blue looks really, really nice. Now, what we're looking at here is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 730 octa-core processor. It's an 8 nanometer process and an Adreno 618 GPU inside there. You're going to get 6 gigs of RAM, and the model that I have is 64 gigs of storage. You can get one up to 128 gigs of storage. Be known that there is no micro SD card expansion, although it is dual SIM, so that may be a downfall for some of you, but not for me. You know, if you get the 128 gigabyte version, you're pretty good to go. Now they give you an 18 watt charger here, and this will fast charge the phone. It doesn't have wireless charging built in, but it does a really great job at charging this particular phone at 18 watts. And it has a 4,000 milliamp battery built in. So let's take a look at the phone itself and the ports. On the bottom, you're going to have your dual SIM card, your USB Type-C charge port. You're going to have your microphone there. You're also going to have your single speaker. There is no dual speakers on this particular model, but the single speaker does really good with sound and gets quite loud. On the left-hand side, you're going to have some antenna bar there. No buttons. On the right-hand side, you're going to have a red power button, and you're also going to have a volume rocker on that side. If we flip it over to the top, you're going to see that we have a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. They have retained that, which is awesome. A lot of flagships are dropping that. And of course, your pop-up selfie camera here, which is rated at something like ungodly at 200,000 pop-ups, so they have that there. Keeps your display totally devoid of a notch or a punch-out. Also has an in-display fingerprint scanner. So let's talk about the screen and the in-display fingerprint scanner. As you can see, it comes up as soon as you move the phone. It'll show you exactly where to put your thumb or finger, depending on what you're going to use. Now, this is kind of a hit or miss. It's good when you get it in the right spot. As you can see there, the first time it didn't really go for me. But for the most point, I'd say it's about 80% accurate. And it's very quick when it works. You'll be able to see here that once I get my finger in the right spot, it will actually open up really quickly. So it does work. It may need a little bit of work there, but just getting to the exact point you need to have it for it to open up is the trick. Once you figure that out, it will open up very, very quickly. Now the screen itself is a full HD plus 2340 pixel by 1080 pixel at 403 ppi. Very nice screen on this, and the brightness is up to 600 nit of brightness as well. So let's talk cameras. On the back, we've got a triple rear camera, 48 megapixel primary camera. You're going to have an 8 megapixel telephoto camera, and you're going to have a 13 megapixel ultra wide angle camera as well, and you're going to have that flash built in. Video recordings are going to be 4K up to 30 frames per second, 1080p at 60 and 30 frames per second. You do have slow motion at 720p up to 960 frames per second, and 1080p slow motion video recording also up to 960 frames per second. Let's take a look at that pop-up camera on your selfie cam. This is a very cool, interesting product. You can see that it lights up as well, allowing to show you if you might have notifications or something like that. Very cool. Keeps your front screen very, very clear. No notches, no cutouts, no nothing. The front camera is a 20 megapixel pop-up selfie camera. It does panorama, 1080p video recording up to 30 frames per second, 720p only at 30 frames per second as well. That's kind of the downside. I'm going to show you some quick clips from both the rear cameras and the front camera so that you guys can see the quality of these as well. Okay, so this is a front-facing camera test of the Mi 9T. And what I'm doing, I'm just holding this. I'm not going to use it on a tripod or anything so that you guys can see the quality. Now, you're limited to 1080p at 30 frames a second on the Mi 9T front-facing camera, that pop-up camera. But this will give you a good idea of what it looks like and also what the microphone pickup sounds like so that you guys can make your own decision on the quality of the Mi 9T front-facing pop-up camera. Okay, so now we're doing 4K video, and I'm just going to do kind of like a walking test. This is with that rear camera, and you guys will be able to check it out. Again, sorry for the wind, guys. A little windy today, but this will give you an idea of what the EIS can do for stabilization, whether it's good, whether it's not good. But again, this is just going to be a short 4K rear camera test so that you guys can check out the 4K rear camera. And then we'll do some photos as well with the telephoto so that you guys can check that out just to see what the quality is going to be like. But overall, this is not bad at all for a mid-range Android smartphone. Let's take a look at some of the shots captured with that rear camera here. You can see that once we flip over, this is just the normal camera taking pictures. Obviously, now we're using telephoto so that you can see some of the differences. I like the colors on this. The color representation is definitely good. Zooming in on it definitely makes this a little bit better. You'll be able to see that once we go to a 2x zoom, things get stay very, very sharp, as you can see. Colors are represented very well, and overall the rear camera does a great job. Let's talk gaming real quick. Qualcomm Snapdragon 730 octa-core processor, Adreno 618 GPU on this will support Fortnite at medium settings at 30 frames per second. Now, flagships are doing, high settings at 60 frames per second. You're not going to get this out of this particular phone, but you're also not going to pay $900 for this phone. You're going to pay anywhere from $300 to $350 for this phone. So having this at medium settings at 30 frames per second, is that a terrible thing? Not really. Honestly, it plays pretty darn well for a $350 smartphone. Using Fortnite as a benchmark is fairly important because it's a very widely popular game. I play it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little bit of gameplay here where you guys can check it out. And you'll be able to make that determination on your own. I noticed in the lobby I had a few hitches here and there, but once I was loaded into the game, I didn't have any problems running around, harvesting, or doing anything else at all with Fortnite. So if you're looking for a mid-range smartphone that's going to support Fortnite, if you can live with 30 frames a second, this does just fine. Okay, so once we're in the lobby here, you can see no problems. The screen looks absolutely great. That's another thing that I really like. Even though it's a 1080p screen, basically, it has a pixel density of over 400 ppi, which really works very, very well. I can see there was a few hitches right there. That doesn't happen once you're loaded into the game. Mostly that just happens in the lobby from my experience with this particular phone. So overall, you can see it's super smooth once I'm in the battle bus. No problems whatsoever playing Fortnite on this particular phone. No hitching or anything like that. Great colors, very vibrant screen. Great for gaming with that 4,000 milliamp battery as well. You're going to be able to get in some fairly serious gaming sessions if that's what you're looking for. So overall, I'm pretty impressed with how the Qualcomm Snapdragon 730 and the Adreno 618 do with Fortnite, even here in Season 10. So a very, very nice overall. Not disappointed in the gaming performance of the Mi 9T. Look at a few benchmarks since we've been talking about the Snapdragon 730. Your single core performance in Geekbench is going to be 2527. Multi-core is going to be 6816, which isn't stellar, but it's definitely not bad at all. I think they've kind of nailed it between the real low end and kind of your high end 855 type of Snapdragon. The 730 fits right in between and does a pretty great job. Let's move along to Antutu, and as we can take a look at the Antutu score here, it's 208,894, so it did a pretty respectable job in the scores. Your CPU has defeated about, well, look at that, about 80% of users. So it's up there. It's definitely in that higher mid-range that we've seen. The GPU is about at 50%. So again, not bad, not great, but still sufficient for gaming. And then, of course, you have your UX scores and your memory scores there, all in the 70s and 80s. So for a mid-range device, this is looking at the top of the line of that mid-range line, you know, that top 70-80%. So with all that, it brings us to MIUI, which is the skinned version of Android Pie. It gets several updates. I've already gotten 2 in the last 2 weeks since I've received the phone. If we go to About Phone here, we'll see that this is running on MIUI 10, which is stable, and it's pretty lightweight. You can, of course, since it's Android, use your own launcher and replace this if you want to, but honestly, the MIUI is pretty decent for me. I like the gesture controls there that keep the navigation bar clear. Your whole entire screen is just screen, which is great. You can use a Mi account and use that to sync up if you want. That's built in. You also have tools, several tools that are baked into this from Mi, so that you can check them out. You've got a Mi calculator. You do have a screen recorder that's built in, which is definitely a welcome thing there. Compass, as well as their own theme store and things like that. So they've got a lot of things going for it that can add to the usability of the phone. Overall, it's very, very fast and fluid as well. I didn't notice any slowdowns. You don't get an app tray, so you're going to have all of these apps out here. You can put them in folders, so it doesn't really bother me. Built-in cleaners as well with the Xiaomi or the MIUI. Overall, it's a pretty clean OS or skin on top of Android Pie, and I like it. It looks really good. It's got some simplicity to it. You can swipe up, see everything that's open. You can see that it handles it very well with the RAM that's included here. Not many reloading times for apps that have been open before. So the overall performance of the 9T is just great. It's solid for the price. I really, really enjoyed it. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my Xiaomi Mi 9T review. The things that I really like about this phone is the finish of the phone. The screen, even though it is full HD plus at 1080p, has a PPI of 403, and the color reproduction is great at 600 nits of brightness. It's a 6.39-inch AMOLED display, 6 gigs of RAM, either 64 or 128 gigs of storage. I would opt for the 128 gigs of storage because of the lack of the SD card expansion slot. Now, the only other thing that I found that was missing on this that I disliked was wireless charging. There's no wireless charging on this device, and I'm a big wireless charging fan. Everything else was pretty solid. The Snapdragon 730 octa-core processor did a great job at keeping up with normal tasks. The Adreno 618 GPU did a good job at keeping up with heavier games, even like Fortnite or PUBG. So that will definitely get you something there. Now, as far as the cameras go, you guys saw the cameras. I was pretty impressed with the front-facing camera pop-up. Keeps everything clean on your screen. No cutouts, no notches. The triple rear camera did an excellent job, in my opinion. It does support, of course, HDR, as well as the screen and video supports HDR and Netflix HDR, if that's something that you're into. Overall, this phone for the price is definitely a win, in my opinion, at $349, even though you're missing the expandable storage and the wireless charging. The pluses outweigh the cons by a mile. This was Luke from Galaxy Tech Review. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you guys haven't subscribed yet, please do so, because that always helps me out. And I'll check you guys out on the next video.